All right. Let's bring my friend Tone in here. Don't forget, Angelo Cataldi also at 4:30 and Philly 500 at 5:30. And hey, Tone, let's start it off with Dallas Goedert there.
I'm glad you went there.
I think we all are on the same page with this. That Dallas Goedert is a fabulous football player. That Dallas Goedert is everything you love about a tight end. He has it, except that availability issues sometimes become a problem with this when you're talking about, especially a stretch. Look at this. Here's a stretch run here that he's going to be missing in, where you might need someone like this against some better football teams. What's your take on what I said about, you think how he addresses that position? I'm not saying replace him, but begin to look for the heir apparent like they did with Zach Ertz a couple of years ago by getting Goedert.
You know, it's so funny. I don't think you're wrong that the Philadelphia Eagles need to make sure they're way more secure at that position than they are right now. Jack Stoll, he's not explosive enough. He's a good blocker, but he's not good enough. In the receiving game. Grant Calcaterra, he's another guy who can't necessarily stay healthy. He's been dealing with a concussion, and he has concussion history. So they're very limited at that tight end position. I do like Jack Stoll, but again, he's limited. He doesn't make bad plays. He doesn't hurt you, but he doesn't take you over the top. When it comes to Dallas Goedert and his health, look, man, 2 seasons in a row, he's gotten hurt at the exact same point in the season. Week 9, last year he got hurt in week 10.
It's like running out of gas or something.
This year he got hurt in week 9. Is it coincidence or is he injury prone? Now, I did some math here. Dallas Goedert, he became the starter. He became the starter in 2021, right? Because that was he became the starter.
It was after the Monday night game. They sent Ertz to Arizona. Exactly. He was probably before that too, Tone, because remember they really weren't playing him because they were trying to move Zach Ertz.
Exactly. Yeah. So let me just put it like this, right? Through his through his 6-year career, right? So far, through 99 possible games, he's only been available for 78 of them.
Wow.
That's missing
a ton of lost games.
In 2020, he only was available for 8 games. He played in 11 games. Remember in 2021, they went from a 16-game season to a 17-game season. So in 2020, in the 16-game season, he only was available for 11 games in 2020. In 2021, he was available for 15 of them. He missed 2 games there. Remember, he came back for that Jets game. But in 2021, he only played 15 games, which is okay, 15 games. All right, that's most of the games. In 2022, he played 12 games. He missed 5 of the games. In 2023, there's a chance he may miss 4 or 5 games. There's a chance because they're saying this injury, hopefully at best, is a 4 to 6 week injury. But that's what they're hoping for.
So theoretically, in his career, he's missed 25% of his games.
Theoretically, in his career, he's missed just over a season of football. 21 games. So if you want to go by the 16-game metric, okay, 16 plus 5. Okay, but if you want to go by the 17-game metric, he's missed a season and in 4 games. So it's like he's missed over a season of football, a grand total in his career. That's the reality.
He needs help.
That's the reality.
They need help there.
Not fan, and I'm a fan. Sileo, you know how I get
down.
Yeah,
no, I get it.
I'm a fan.
By the way, so am I. He's one of my favorite Eagles.
But the reality is, you got hurt at the same point in the season, and to make it even crazier, they both were divisional matchups where you got hurt in. So look, man, that part has nothing to do with anything, but it's just coincidence. But the reality is, man, they need more help at that position, especially if they can't get a full season out of Dallas Goedert. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let's check the contract now. At the end of the day, this is the sports industry, and don't think the sport comes before the industry. Okay, so let's really talk about it the way we really should talk about it. All right, Dallas got his contract. All right, here we go. So he signed a 4-year, $57 million contract with $35 million in total guarantees. Right, he signed that deal and it took effect He signed that deal that took effect in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So here we
Is
are.
in season they addressed it.
Okay, I'm sorry. The contract took effect in 2022. So the contract took effect last year. He only gave you 12 games last year. This season, he might only give you 12 games again, maybe 11. You never know. Again, we don't know how long he's going to be gone. So right now, man, if they decided to move on from him after the 22, if they decided to move on from him after this season, they would have to incur a $22.3 million cap hit.
I'm not saying they're going to move on from him, Tone. I'm saying they need help there.
Yeah, they do need help. You know what? Because I like Dallas Goedert.
And I don't want him off the team,
right?
But I need him in November, December, February to be 100%.
Right.
And if we're looking at the position and you want to keep paying that guy, and I think you look at the same scenario in San Francisco. Look what they did in San Fran. They got a backup tight end there because they know Kittle has a little bit of the injury bug as well. So what they did was they got him more help. And on top of that, guess what? His numbers are down, but the talent's not down. You're going to live with that.
Right. Yeah. And again, this isn't a conversation about Dallas Goedert's talent, right? You and I both know this.
Nothing.
And I hope listeners understand this as well. This isn't about his talent. He's a very productive player, and he's one of the most explosive tight ends in the NFL. Any team would be lucky to have him, and we're lucky to have him as well. But we're entering a very crucial stretch in the season, and he gets hurt right before it gets going. That's not what I need. That's not what none of us need. And we need to take off our fanboy hats and say, this is not a good look. 2 years in a row, you got hurt at the same point at the same time last season. So they need more help down there. They need more depth. Like you said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if Harry Roseman tries to get another tight end in the draft, or even try to really just take a lot of swings in undrafted free agency, once the draft ends. So we're going to see how this thing pans out, man. But this is another reason.
He's injury prone.
You miss a full season of football. You miss 21 games out of a total of 99. Man, I'm not. Both of those injuries.
Tone, you don't want to say it.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it because both of the injuries were freak injuries. The first time last year, he got face masked.
So you think it's coincidence?
I'm going to lean more towards coincidence right now. That's why I am right now.
21 games, missing 21 games is a coincidence.
Listen, Sills, man, I'm trying to play the fence here, man. You're looking hard. I'm trying to play the fence here, okay?
Your Honor, let him answer the question.
I'm trying to play the fence here, man. I'm still a Dallas Goedert guy, but dog, getting the first time again, you missing those games last year. He got face masked and then they crushed his shoulder. That was crazy. They should have called a penalty right there. But then the injury still happens. This year, the play is so nasty. The guy grabs his arm and literally twists under it and falls on his arm. So it was pretty ugly to watch. I'm not going to jump out the window and say he's injury prone yet. But if this happens again next season, I'll say it. I'll say it. just not there yet. Just not there yet.
Hey, you can always. Tone is the worst liar on the planet. You know why? He's like me. He can't. It's impossible for you to. It's impossible for you to lie. Because you know why? I start twitching, like my eyes start. I'm just not a good. I'm not a good liar at all. It's hard to say that about a guy we like. Okay, both injuries the last 2 years, in my opinion, were dirty plays. Yeah. Okay. Well, 21 games, dude. 21 games is not the last 2 years. That's a statement of his time in the league.
Yeah, in 2020, he missed 5 games. So, I mean,
do you remember why?
I don't remember why, actually. That's a good point. That's a good question. I think it has something to do with an ankle or a foot, something. I can't remember.
So has he been hurt every year he's played in the NFL?
If you want to be technically, if you want to be technical, he's only been healthy he's only played 1 full season in his career.
In 6 years. And
that was his rookie year. So, other than that,
you think he's injury prone or not?
Hey, next question, Your Honor. Next witness. Next witness.
Yeah.
Next witness, man.
Listen, how about this? What would be the round? What would be the round in April's draft? that you would address that? Look, you're not getting the kid Bowers as much.
No.
He's going to be a top 3 pick.
Yeah, and Bowers is coming off. Bowers is going to be coming off a really bad injury. I
Yeah.
don't know. So, but overall though, see, I'm of the mindset you can find a good tight end on day 3.
Absolutely.
I'm of that mind. I will never draft a tight end in the first round. He would have to be a godsend. But even then, I'm not doing it because I can find a serviceable tight end. Zach Ertz was found on what, day 2 of the draft?
See, I'm more like 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there for tight ends.
Yeah. And and also another thing, right? The tight end position is such a physical position. In a 17-game season, if I can get a strong 15 games out of my tight end each and every year, I can live with everything else. I'll be honest with you. At tight end, you're asked to catch balls. You're asked to block these big-ass edge rushers. You know what I'm saying? You're asked to run block. If you're a tight end giving me a strong 15 games out of a 17-game season, or back in the day, a strong 15 games out of a 16-game season, I'll roll with it. I'll roll. But when you're missing 5 games here, 5 games there, now, because in 2020, he missed 5 games. In 2022, he missed 5 games. And this year, he might miss 5 games. So what are we talking about now?
Counselor, please move on to the next question.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. New witness, new question.
All right. Does it bother you on how the Eagles are winning games in 2023 compared to how they dominated in 2022? Are you okay with how they're doing it?
I am okay with it. It's not bothering me. It's more nerve-wracking because it makes the games more exciting than I would like them to be. I mean, let's be honest, every fan wants to watch the games and just sit back and just enjoy it, right? But the reality is, it's not.
How many games have you enjoyed this year? 1?
If you ask my wife, none. Honestly,
even the Buck game. Shit.
Listen, if you ask my wife, I haven't. If you ask my wife, I haven't enjoyed an Eagles game in a long time because I'm too. Sills,
you're a mess.
I'm too emotional. I'm too invested in my core.
I like that though, man.
But to your point though, man, I don't mind how they've been winning games because it's showing me a level of maturity, right? Last year, let's be totally honest. How many times were they forced to really come back and really dig deep to win games? Let's really think about this.
Like maybe 1 or 2.
Maybe, right? If we're really being like transparent about this, let's really think about it.
Would they come back in that Titans game? Was it with the Cardinal game?
No, the Titans game, they smacked the Titans.
Was it the Cardinal game that came back?
The Cardinals game was tough, but
Washington.
No.
That's right. They split last year.
Yeah, they split. And let's be. I'll be frank about this, man. Week 1, Detroit, 38-35. You were leading that entire game. You just had to hold on. Yep. Minnesota, you controlled that game beginning to end. Washington, week 3, you controlled that game from beginning to end. Jacksonville, that was the game they were down 14-0. So that was a game, and it was raining. So that was a game that
was there turnovers at the beginning of that thing. Is that what that happened with?
Jalen Hurts threw an interception that bounced off his receiver's hands, and then it tipped into the Jaguars' hands. So Jacksonville, that was a good win because Jacksonville's legit now. So so they were ahead of schedule last year, and they've shown that they're right on time right now. So that was a good win in hindsight. And they were down 14-0 in the first quarter. Arizona, that was a tough game, but they led for the most part in that game. Dallas, they controlled that game from beginning to end, and it was a backup quarterback. Pittsburgh blew them out 35-13. Houston, they controlled that game for the most part, even though Houston played them tough. Washington, they lost 32-21. They turned the ball over a lot. Colts, that was a tough game that they had to come back in.
Colts, right?
That was a tough game. So far, Jacksonville and Colts, AFC South, man, they play tough. It's so funny. And now I think about it, their toughest games really were the AFC South, except for the Titans. But Colts, tough game. Green Bay, that was a interesting game, but then they kind of
was interesting in the beginning of the 4th.
Yeah. Tennessee, they blew them out. New York Giants blew them out. Chicago, that was a tough game. Hurts got hurt in that game.
Hurts got banged up in that game. 3rd quarter, was it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and then he came back through. He started doing his thing. Dallas, Hurts wasn't there, and New Orleans, Hurts wasn't there. They lost both of those games. Dallas was a nip and tuck back and forth game though. New Orleans, that was just a fart game. New York Giants ended the game. End of the season. They controlled it for the most part. So they only have about 2 games on that schedule where they really had to come back. And this year,
you had 3 in a row just now. You were behind at half.
Yeah, they've had like 3 in a row where they were behind in a half. So when you think about it from that perspective, I think this Eagles team is more battle tested now. And also, remember how we talked about it like this last year? They would score a lot early, and then they would kind of try to coast to the end.
They couldn't finish teams off last
and they
year.
really couldn't finish teams off. They kind of would lose. They lost interest. That's how I take it. They lose interest. This year, they've had to have their bunny ears up every single game. They've had to have their antennas on.
But Tone, that gives you less room for error at the back end of these games where you can't have situational mistakes. Like you pointed out with Dak going to Tolbert, a play like that, even making a completion to the wrong guy, getting tackled before you go over the goal line,
right before,
anything like that.
Yeah, the Dak
Prescott
Prescott run.
Room of error.
No, you're absolutely right. But again, I'm still rocking with the way they're doing things this year because I see a team that everything that they're experiencing, and also they're 8-1 through this process. That's
absolutely.
So through them going through all these trials and tribulations, trying to figure out the new OC, trying to figure out the new DC. You know what's so funny? In 2021, new coach, new OC, new DC. They struggled, but they ended up going 9-8, and they were 2-5 at one point, right? This year, new OC, new DC, they're 8-1. So the chemistry and their experience has allowed them to weather the storm of the newness of that coaching staff. And I think based off of everything they've experienced over the past few years, having to deal with the ups, the downs, being down at the half, especially this year, having that ability to come back and dominate third quarters and fourth quarters and win games, I feel like that translates to the playoffs rather than the way the Cowboys win games. They got to blow you out. If the Cowboys don't blow you out, they're not winning the game. So I feel like the way the Eagles play translates into the playoffs rather than blowing teams out every single week.
How about Parsons' comments this morning where he's like,
what'd he say?
He says that we're even more confident today having played Philly than we ever have been before. And I was kind of taken by it.
So you weren't confident before?
He's more confident now after losing the way that they played. And he's accepting, to me, I read it like he's accepting a participation medal. Like he was in the Rocky fight that he just wanted to go to distance with Apollo Creed. And he wants to get a championship belt for that. Shit, Rocky at least made it very clear that's all he wanted to do was go to distance.
Right.
So he won his own kind of battle internally. This guy here is trying to take a Rocky lap and make it sound like he beat Apollo, but he didn't. And I'm going, I cannot believe that you take a victory lap on getting beat. You did the same shit against the Niners. I tell you, Tone, that's part of the issues in that locker room is that those guys, there's election deniers and then there's defeat deniers in sports. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys are the biggest defeat deniers I've ever seen. I can't believe you lean on that.
Rocky may have lost and Rocky may have been completely comfortable with the way things ended.
But he had his own battle.
But he had his own battle. And look, Rocky was completely comfortable fighting Spider Ricos. He was completely and at least he made that known to everybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I told you.
But when you're the Dallas Cowboys and you're a team that has or supposed to have Super Bowl aspirations, you can't talk like that. I'm sorry. You can't talk like that around me. We lost the game. I was watching Undisputed yesterday, and thank God for Keyshawn Johnson.
I know.
Because Skip Bayless and
Michael Irvin.
And I got a lot of respect for Michael Irvin. A lot of respect, man. Playmaker, for sure. But the level of pandering and delusion that they displayed on that show in that moment, Keyshawn Johnson was like, hold on, wait. You talking about yards and stats and this and that and who looked better? The bottom line is you lost. You lost. What are we talking about here? You lost. Like, since when are we relishing in stats? We're in the win-loss business. You lost. And I'm watching national media and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, Y'all can't be serious right now.
Can't
You
be.
would have thought the Philadelphia Eagles lost. You would have thought the Philadelphia Eagles got dominated somehow.
Dude, that show's like the Dallas Cowboy pregame show.
Like they're talking about, yeah, Dak proved that he can show up in these moments. He actually didn't. They lost. The ball was in his hands to win the game at the 6-yard line.
Did you see what Ryan Clark said? Ryan Clark goes like this. Now I know Dak can show up in championship moments. And I went, where was that?
Look, listen, I'm not going to listen. Dak played a great game individually. He did. He didn't turn the ball over.
That's like giving Tone, that's like you and me going like this. Look, Jalen had more yards than Mahomes in the Super Bowl. However,
he lost.
The guy who made the critical plays at the critical moments was Mahomes, and that's what Jalen, in my opinion, completely outplayed Dak in that game. And you know what's funny? People call me crazy. I didn't think it was close.
Like, and let's be frank about this, right? Dak had to throw that ball. Dak had to do that because they were down double digits in the fourth quarter. Like, he had to pad those stats to get back into the game. You dig what I'm saying? So, like,
I didn't see that competition that close like that. I thought Prescott played very good, but I thought Jalen made championship throws in championship moments.
Like, for example, the 4th and 3 to Dallas Goedert. That's a key throw. 4th and 3 on your first offensive drive. You're trying to set the tone. They went for it on 4th down twice on their opening drive. They let you know early. This is the kind of game we're playing. Jalen Hurts made a big throw, 4th and 3. They're down 3 points in the third quarter. Jalen Hurts just tweaked that knee. He comes out at halftime. First drive, throws a dime to Devontae Smith. That's a championship level throw. You dig what I'm saying? Brings him down the field again. Throws a screen pass or a ball to the flat to AJ Brown. AJ Brown gets into the end zone. 14 points that fast. Boom, boom. Dallas Cowboys offense non-existent in the third quarter. Now you're playing catch up, and y'all want credit for catching up. I don't get it.
Right. I don't get what Ryan Clark and Skip and some of the other pundits around I don't get what you're looking at. And is it really just that much for TV ratings that that's what they're doing it for? Because then it's not genuine breaking down of what you saw. And this is why Hurts is the biggest underdog in the NFL. Tone, he's a $50 million underdog because the media makes him that way. Mm-hmm. They don't cover Jalen Hurts correctly.
Absolutely not.
They do not give him get this. He's right now going to throw for 4,500 yards, potentially 44 something, probably right around potentially 30 touchdowns and 15 picks. That's a Josh Allen year.
Mm-hmm. You know what's so funny? It gets so bad sometimes. You know, you can always tell. You know what? I'll keep it real. It's not every show that does it. But listen. This is how sneaky they are. This may sound like nitpicking to you. This is how sneaky they are, right? Jalen Hurts in that game, he threw for, and let me make sure I got my stats right because Jalen Hurts is that dude, and I want to make sure I got my stats right for that particular game. So in that game, Jalen Hurts went 17 for 23, completed 74% of his passes, 207 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, had 36 rushing yards and a rushing TD. You know what they do on TV? They'll say, "Oh, Jalen Hurts threw for 207. He went 7. They'll only put half of the stats. They'll say 17 for 23, 207 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and they'll put Dak stats next to it and say, "Oh, okay, over 300 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns." Oh, hold on, wait. Jalen Hurts had 3 touchdowns too. But he had 3 touchdowns too.
They don't account for his total yards and his total TDs.
They don't account for his total yards. They don't account for his total TDs. So it's a narrative that they're pushing, and it's not every show. I see shows that make sure they put Jalen Hurts, passing yards, rushing yards, total touchdowns, right? But I see other shows, they're very particular. Because listen, after working at JAKIB and being responsible for typing little stuff out and all this kind of stuff, the things we type, you realize it matters. And you realize how easy it is for us to push a certain narrative and how easy it is for to shift the narrative, right?
Well, don't you realize, Tom, when I worked at TV, what they'll do is they'll come out with the trends on what the hot topics are and what they'll do, and they'll supersede what the game actually was and how the game was actually played to create a narrative because they want to give people what they want to hear. In their eyes, and Fox, their eyes are they want to hear why the Cowboys lost, not why the Eagles won. Because what that'll do is this: it infuriates Eagle fans and it accentuates Cowboy fans for engagement. And that's how you put a script together for putting shows together. It's really not a, you see, if you're looking for fair coverage, I don't want, I mean, how about this? Factual coverage. That's why I say you go to the bookies. The bookies cover because they put the money on it. If you're going to TV shows and you're looking for somebody to cover a game the way it was played, you're going to scratch your head and go like this when you're watching shows like Undisputed. If you watch Undisputed and you watch First Take, they're two completely separate shows on how they covered the Cowboys and Eagle game. At least Stephen A. Smith goes like this. This is what happened in that game. Hurts was great. The other guy, because what they're doing is they're ping-ponging that narrative for television ratings.
Yeah.
So you're not really getting the coverage, which means this is why Hurts will never get his justice.
There's only about one show that gives Jalen Hurts consistent respect. And the key word is consistent. There's only one show on Fox Sports 1, FS1, that gives Jalen Hurts consistent respect. And that's Speak with Joy Taylor, Emmanuel Acho, LaShawn McCoy, and James Jones, former wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. And obviously LaShawn McCoy's there. So he's going to make sure of that.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Tony. Don't you think I'm texting Joy all the time going like this? Why are you not talking about Hurts? She's like,
they show him a lot. They show him a lot of love on that show. They show him a lot, and they actually show total yards, total touchdowns. You know what I'm saying?
I correct her,
and it also helps that Emmanuel Acho played for the Eagles for about 4 seasons.
Yep.
LaShawn McCoy obviously is an Eagles legend.
And Joy worked for me for 3. I'm very clear with her. I'm like this. I don't know why you guys are talking the segment of Dak. You need to be. And so I guess in those meetings, like you said, Shady and all them guys are going like this. Hang in there now. What about the guy in Philly? What about so it's the only show that truly does give Jalen Hurts his love. It really is. And I watch Joy because she always asks me. She watches this show
for the past 2 seasons. She's given a lot of love. I got a lot of respect for her for the past 2 seasons. She's been giving a lot of respect
all the time. You better start throwing some love to Jalen Hurts. I got a question for you here.
Yep.
What's your takeaway on the Wentz era now that he has signed with the Rams? And give me, you know what? Because if you talk to certain Eagle fans, this guy is in the conversation with Ben Simmons and James Harden and with the hatred and the shade they throw at this guy. What's your takeaway on Wentz?
It's pretty simple for me, man. When we drafted Carson Wentz, I didn't really know too much about him. I knew they took a risk drafting him, where they drafted him, especially where he came out of, and I was like, okay. Came out of White Boy U. He went 7-9 in his rookie season. It was completing 62% of his passes, 16 passing touchdowns, and he threw 14 interceptions. So he had a very mediocre rookie season, right? He comes back out at 2017 and he just sets the world ablaze. And I'm like, oh my God, this dude isn't this dude is like,
I thought he was Brett Favre.
Like the way he was balling,
Brett
right?
Favre, kind of crazy player, throwing his body around, that kind of guy.
Right. So I'm like, yo, this kid is legit. So I'm rolling, and listen, I'm gonna always keep it real with you, Sills. I didn't stop rolling. It took me until 2020 to start rolling for Wentz. As a matter of fact, you want to know the game I stopped rolling for him?
Seattle.
Me too. Because the rumor is he could have came back out there and played.
Yeah.
That's the rumor.
No, Seattle. I heard some shit. Seattle.
That was the game. I remember exactly where I was, who I was with. Me and my dad sitting there watching the game, and we're like, okay, we snuck into the playoffs. He went on this amazing final 4 or 5 game stretch. Smoked the rest of the NFC East, got in, and I'm like, okay, we're in now. Seattle, they're beatable. They weren't that great that year. They're beatable.
Even Eagle fans were defending him after the Clowney hit.
We were defending him after the Clowney hit still, but then once it really settled in, I'm like, yo, this dude, he can't make it. He can't, it was like clockwork. So it took me until 2020 to really say I'm not riding with this dude ever. Because I even came into 2020 optimistic. And I'm like, when I saw the way they blew that Washington lead in the opening week, I was like, I'm over this. I'm completely over this guy. So I was riding for, and I mean, I got into arguments, like real arguments with people about Wentz. I got into arguments with my dad, and my dad was a Foles guy. He won that Super Bowl. Listen, Foles could have came in my crib and had a mattress in his own fridge. The way he's like,
sorry, Tom, but I'm on your dad's side. I think they should have kept. I think
I'm
they
with
should have
them.
kept Foles, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm with them now. You know what I'm saying? But overall, man, I look at Carson Wentz as, his time in Philadelphia was well worth it.
Yes.
Well worth it. Everything that we experienced as fan base, the ups, the downs, the emotional toll, everything that we experienced with Carson Wentz got us that Super Bowl. People can pretend and talk all the crap they want, but one thing they should always understand, we don't have that Super Bowl without Carson Wentz doing what he did.
11-2.
We have to be honest about this. It's okay to hate how it ended. Yeah. It's okay to hate the personality. Yeah. It's okay to nitpick who he. It's okay. Absolutely. But one thing we should never ever, because we never like, and this is what I mean by they never should have gave us one, because some of us are just talking out the side of our mouths now, and we got to respect the game. We got to respect what he laid out on the line. I watched that dude still lead a drive after tearing his ACL and his LCL. He threw a touchdown dime to Alshon Jeffrey and didn't move an inch.
He didn't limp off the field.
He snapped the ball. All he did was pivot hips. That's all he did. Pivot hips and just snapped it in there. You know how typically in the pocket you want to find your passing lane. I don't know how he did it.
Didn't they carry him off the field?
No, he walked off.
He walked off the field after throwing that. And
he threw the touchdown, walked off the field, and Nick Foles closed out the game.
And you guys were 11-2 at that time.
We went 11-2. Yep, 11-2 at the time.
There's not a chance in hell you don't have home field without that
win
you had.
That win guaranteed home field but also you got to keep this in mind as well. How many teams lock up home field that early? That's only 13 games. There's 3 games left.
Oh, that's a dominant season. He was killing it.
So when you think about from that perspective, man, I got a lot of respect for Carson Wentz. Did I hate how it ended? Hell yeah. Did I hate the rumors I heard about his personality? Hell yeah. I didn't like none of that.
No, you did what you did. Tone, because what is happening now is that Jalen is accentuating the ending for him so much more because Jalen is the strong-minded guy. He's not going to unravel when there's lesser talent around him or lesser coaching or people not believing. And all of a sudden, the Foles thing becomes an issue. See, what he didn't understand, in my opinion, and that's no excuse. You get paid that $38 million. You're paid the $38 million because they're confident in you, not because they're not confident in you. And getting the drafting of Hurts, the money, he should have overcame that, but he couldn't overcome that because there was internal bickering between the coach, the GM. Talent was leaving in the coaching staff. People were actually leaving in the front office too. Joe Douglas, Andrew Barry, all those guys were getting sniffs of other teams trying to sign them as being general managers. People were cherry picking, and I got to tell you, man, he couldn't overcome all that, and it became his demise. And then the locker room became divided. Again, no excuses. He just didn't have the mental fortitude to fight through that.
It's really that simple, man. So I wish Wentz all the.
I think he's going to do well out there.
He has a chance to, for sure. He has a good coach. He has weapons to throw the ball to. So we'll see if he can take advantage of the opportunity. I mean, he had weapons. Not
the last year he did it
in Washington as well with Terry McLaurin. Yep. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel had a solid tight end, a solid running back. No offensive line though. So, look, man, again.
Yeah, well, Sam Howell's making that work, so that's no excuse.
There we go. So
Sam Howell's thrown for 300 yards back-to-back weeks.
Right.
I mean, he's making it work, and I'll tell you, he's the answer in Washington, in my opinion. I'm good with him.
Yeah, I'm starting to look at him like, okay, all right, you know what I mean? And also,
are you more concerned Are you more concerned about the health of Hurts or Swift in the back end run here in the next 8 games?
I mean, Jalen Hurts by far, because you said Hurts and Swift, right?
Hurts or
Yeah,
Swift?
yeah. Hurts. I mean, he's the quarterback. You know, I have to be more
Well, you
concerned
lose
about his
Swift, you
health.
have no one then.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but I mean they haven't ran the ball well anyway, so so it's like okay, but you know, if you lose Hurts though, I mean, Marcus Mariota, you know, so you know, I got to deal with the greater of two evils there with that one, and losing Jalen Hurts is the greater of those two evils. So I'm definitely more concerned about his health. That's why this bye week, you know, that Dallas game was kind of like a tipping point, you know, for his health, right? Because they dodged the bullet. You know what I'm saying? He came out and still finished the game and still delivered the ball. That third quarter was that third quarter showed me that he just tweaked it. It wasn't no structural. He just tweaked it, and he still came out and did his thing. And he still they came out in that, if you remember, in that first drive in the third quarter, they came out and the first play they did was an RPO, and he ran like 10, 15 yards or something like that. So they kind of made it a point to say, yeah, listen, he's good. All right.
Hey, you know what though? I think he dodged. I'd rather have a broken arm than structural damage in my knee.
Yeah, for sure. I'd rather
break they got a break there with that forearm fracture more so because you can put a pin in that and you're going to be ready to rock in about a month.
Exactly.
So they got lucky, man, because if it could have been a knee injury or a shoulder separation, then you're talking about the rest of the season.
Exactly. So
so they got a little bit of luck there. Okay. What is the one thing? You know, and I said this earlier. You know, Tone. I think that team has to be mentally fried right now. I mean, think about the way that they've had their head down since the beginning of the 2022 season. I mean, they haven't played 9 games, Tone. They've played like 27 games.
Right.
I mean, they've played almost like 30 ball games of intense football, and being in every one of them and never having letdowns like you see with the Cowboys or the Eagles. Not only are they physically, I mean, they played until February. They've only had like 5 months of true off. They gave them the week off. I think it's wonderful. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, right? That team's got to be mentally fried right now just for what they've done and how hard they've played for 2.5 years of football.
Yeah, because they've had to fight for these wins over the. I mean, they're 8-1, but they've had to fight for every last one of them.
So this year's definitely tougher than a year ago.
So it's kept them engaged. You know what I mean? And on top of that, I feel like this year, not only have they gone against better just teams and personnel, they've gone up against better coaching. You know what I mean? They've gone up against like the
better
NFL,
defensive coaches for sure.
Yeah, the NFL has had a full year to prepare for this Philadelphia Eagles team. And they're still weathering that storm. You know, it's a lot to be said about that, man. And
think about this, Tone. Dan Quinn, Bill Belichick, Brian Flores, Todd Bowles, Robert Saleh,
Raheem Morris.
These are the top dudes in the profession.
Vic Fangio.
These are the top dudes and they've played against more quality defensive coordinators maybe than any team in the NFL this year on a week-to-week basis. Shit, Jack Del Rio.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And
I mean, look at those guys they've played.
Yeah, and they've gone up against some pretty stellar offensive minds as well. And Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel. Who else do they have there? They had to go up against Bill O'Brien in week 1. You know what I mean? The reality is they've had to fight for all these wins. And
McVay.
Yep. And on top of that, DeWine Jones brought up a good point. The Eagles are getting everyone's best right now.
Yeah, because that, like I said before, you know, it's one thing to climb the mountain. It's another thing to stay on the mountain when you got everyone circling the summit.
Yeah, it's hard to it's hard to play
because you're a visible target when you're on top.
Mm-hmm. See, last year, even though they won on those games, people still doubted them and nobody saw them coming.
No,
you know what I mean. So
they really didn't see them coming until the back end of that second half of the season when they went, "Wow, this team's really, 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 really good, really good."
Exactly.
All right, my friend. We got Angelo Cataldi coming up here, and I want to
be exciting, man. I'm excited, man.
I love the guy, man. The greatest sports talk host in the history of Philadelphia sports.
Absolutely.
One thing before you go though, what's the one thing you like for them to work on in this off time here, as they get ready for the back end of the season here?
That's a good question, man. The one thing that stands out, I know the obvious answer may appear to be pass defense, but I don't think that's going to change but so much. I want to focus on something that I know can really improve, like tangibly improve. I want them to work on their running game. I want that offensive line to really get some rest, get some tender loving care, really get back to the basics and get that chemistry back on track.
What those jet sweeps we saw?
Yeah, man. Real quick, one of their best, arguably the best play of the night from a creativity standpoint was that AJ Brown touchdown.
Yeah.
Because it seemed
I was really happy to see it. That means it's evolving.
Yeah. Because, and also another thing, really quickly. I know we're short on time here. They've over the past couple weeks, they've been doing very well. In the red zone right now. Their red zone efficiency has jumped up to. Let me make sure I got this right. Their red zone efficiency is currently. Where are we? Jeez, where is it? First down, third down, fourth down. The bottom line is the red zone efficiency has really jumped to another level, and they were 100%. They were 100% in the red zone. Okay, here it is, red zone percentage. All right, as of right now, the Philadelphia Eagles, remind you, earlier in the season, they were like ranked in the bottom 20s in red zone efficiency. Now they're ranked 13th.
Great.
And they're converting red zone, and their red zone efficiency is at 55% on the season.
Good.
So they're trending in the right direction. The creativity is getting there in the red zone. I think Brian Johnson is starting to settle in. And we talked about this yesterday, right? The fact of the matter is even having those boneheaded moments in that Cowboys game and even in other games as well, those things are just being logged, stored into the catalog. Things not to do, what not to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think they're trending in the right direction, Sills. I think so.
Absolutely. Oh, you always have all the time in the world here, Tone. Thank you so much, dude.
I wish.
Always a great segment. Always a great segment
Yes,
with
sir.
you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Tone. That's our friend Tone segment every single Monday through Friday, 3:30 Eastern time. We appreciate it. We're going to have Angelo Cataldi at the bottom of the hour here. Philadelphia's greatest sports talk host of all time will join us. That'll be at the bottom. Happy Wingsgiving from Hooters and all the people at Hooters. We really appreciate our friends there sponsoring the program. Guys, during this month of November, they're going to give you specials each and every single day to give you and thank you for all you have done for Hooters, man. I mean, ice cold Coors Light drafts, $2.99, 25 cents goes to local charities. The Hooters calendars are out 2024. There's $100 in gift cards and gift coupons inside the calendars too. NortheastHooters.com. Lunch specials, Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 3. Boneless wings. Happy hour Monday through Friday, 6 items, $6. Military Mondays, 20%. Wing Wednesdays, $19.83 when you go into any one of the Hooters. NortheastHooters.com. That's NortheastHooters.com, and tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.